what doesn't suck is the show Succession, Mark.
I have heard of this show.
Oh my god, it's fantastic. So Succession is, first of all, Brian Cox, aka, the Chief from Super Troopers, or as many other people know him, a fantastic actor from many decades and Shakespearean class from Royal Theatre trained and all of that good stuff. But in my head, I just imagine him biting a bar of soap. He plays a sort of, massive, businessman, media mogul, kind of along the same lines of like a Murdoch or a Trump kind of level of person, but not necessarily with the same personality traits, right? And the show is about his children, and he has 3 fail sons and a daughter. And they're all kind of spend the 2 or 3 seasons of the show that it's on basically just trying to cut each other's throats and fuck each other over to kind of gain control of their father's company. And it is just, it's so engrossing to watch in many ways. Like the way that they pit the characters off against each other, the way that they sort of build the tension of like putting all of the pieces in play and then just gradually shifting them towards conclusions is so artfully done. The acting in the show is brilliant. Kieran Culkin in particular, who is more than just Macaulay's Culkin's brother or the cool gay friend from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. He plays the youngest of the sons, Roman, and he's just, every sort of thing that you would expect, like every attitude that you would expect from like a rich little dickhead to have, he has it in the show, yet for some reason his character is easily the most likable and feels the most human of all the other characters. And there's a character in there who kind of gets swept into the family, who's from outside, played by Nicholas Braun, called Greg, who's just like basically playing the role of the audience. It's like put in a room with all these awful people and just trying to understand what the hell they're doing. My favorite character is a guy called Tom, who is the husband-to-be of the daughter of Brian Cox's character. And he's just such a brown-nosing little climber that you just can't help but like grit your teeth every time he says and does something. Like the guy has no backbone whatsoever. He's a complete jellyfish. But again, somehow they managed to make these people likable watching the show. And over the course of the series, the growth of his character and his role in helping the sort of grandfather of them all is fantastic. But I think the central main role, and for me the best character in the show, just because of his repeated attempts to overthrow his father, and every time he tries it, he just flops and fails massively. It's Jeremy Strong, who plays Kendall Roy, who's like the golden son, right? In the first series, he's the one that everyone thinks is going to be CEO. And in every series of the show, Mark, he tries this big, massive coup to screw over his father, and every single time it fails. And every single time his father takes him like back under the wing, just knowing that it's going to happen again. And he thinks it's just... It's brilliant, but he kind of goes through so much. He's like an addict, and you just see the peaks and troughs of him gaining confidence and then completely having everything removed from him and all of his confidence stamped out, and then back and forth between his character. And he's just fascinating. Like, he completely loses it in the 3rd season and starts singing a hip hop song for his dad at this thing, and it's one of the most cringeworthy things I've seen on TV in a long time. It's a brilliant show. It's one of those things where if you kind of watch it for 10 to 15 minutes, you're completely engrossed by all of the characters in it and just the way everything works. One person, because it's obviously a HBO show, one person I saw online describe it as Game of Thrones, but without the swords and sorcery. It's just all of the politics and all of the moves and stuff from that. And I think that is a pretty apt description of how everything sets up in there, because some of the moves you don't see coming, and some of them they set up very well. But ultimately, what you need to remember is that Brian Cox is smarter than every single person on the show, and he's also like 20% more evil and ruthless than everyone on the show, and he is fantastic. This is like a real epitaph high moment for Brian Cox's career, I would say. And just if you needed a reminder as to how good of an actor he was, all you need to do is watch this. But yeah, him and Jeremy Strong are just so great as like father and son at each other's throats throughout the whole 3 series. And yeah, I could just cut promos on it for much longer, but I won't. I would just say go watch it, Mark. I think you would really like it. I think anyone that kind of enjoys anyone who enjoys sort of seeing a real skewering of like the other half of the 1%ers, if you would, should watch this show, because you're like, yeah, this is exactly how rich assholes would behave.
I mean, I've already watched a family of billionaires play out on TV within the last 20 years or so and try to stab each other in the back. I want the invasion angle back again. I want to watch Shane and Steph try to take over.
I'm not going to lie to you, Mark. Succession is probably just a little bit better written than WWE. It's close, but I'm going to give it to Succession on this one.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, this thing is a titan. It's on the upswing at the moment. It's one of those things. It's a bit like Game of Thrones, where I didn't start watching that till the 3rd season. And it's the same here. The 3rd season literally just finished. I mean, I think within 2 or 3 years, this is going to be the show that everyone's like, bated breath waiting for it to drop, and it's going to be like a massive cultural touchstone TV program. And HBO do those very well and have done in the last 2-3 decades. So yeah,
hopefully they'll be able to end the final episode of the show on a slightly better note.
What then? Yeah, than the contentious ending of Sopranos or the contentious ending of Game of Thrones. Or yeah, I see what you're saying, but yeah. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 more series that are lined up at the moment, and hopefully they don't make them go beyond that. But yeah, holy shit, watch Succession! What a show! What a program!
So the world has been transfixed by Wordle at the moment.
Yes, it has.
And this thing has been out for, I think it's been out for a few months now, but it's taken a little while to gain traction. But I remember about 2.5 weeks ago, I saw a tweet that just said, Wordle 4 out of 6, and then a bunch of green and grey blocks that looked kind of like some sort of tetramino was trying to be formed out of it. And I just kind of looked at it and went, well, okay, whatever, went about my day. And then I started to see more people over the next couple of days tweeting this as well. To the point I was like, what the fuck is this? And then someone was like, hey, if you're seeing these tweets, it's this thing here, it's called Wordle. So I clicked it and then naturally went and played a round of Wordle. And it's a very simple game that can be played on any web browser, but it is surprisingly addictive. Well, no, I wouldn't say surprisingly addictive, because you only have to spend 5 minutes or half an hour where you're trying to kind of figure out what that last letter is that you need. But yeah, like the whole world seems to be playing this fucking thing.
Yeah, I just love the origin of it. So the guy that made it, Josh Wardle, literally just made it for his other half. He's like, here's a fun word game, and he sent it around to some colleagues, and after like showing it to his missus, and they were all like, oh, this is really cool, can we share this more? They were, yeah. And it literally went from that to becoming like the biggest thing on the internet. And that is a sort of story that I like, because I think in an age where so much stuff is like media managed, or so many game releases are kind of promoted in a way where you've got advertising budgets and marketing meetings and you focus group this game or whatever. It's like, no, here's a little thing some guy just thought would be a cool idea, and it goes massive. And there's a purity to that I really, really enjoy. The game itself, I think most people have that same story. That's how I started playing it. I just saw it randomly, some people doing it. I was like, right, what the hell is a Wordle? Googled it, okay. And then, the first time you play it, you don't quite understand what the rules are. You're not sure whether you can use two of the same letters and all of that good stuff. And then you sort of scrape a 5 or a 6 and you're like, oh, I get it now. Okay. And then bang, that's it. Every day a new Wordle is there, Mark. And, so many people are kind of working from home and stuff at the moment. I think you do have the time and space on your computer to look at the Wordle every single day, and I'm proud to say that I haven't failed on any of the Wordles so far. I think the best I've got is like a 3. Any people who get it in like 1 or 2, I'm very suspicious of. I'm like, how are you doing this?
I literally the first attempt at it, I got it in 2 goes because I think it was either the word basic or magic, and it gave me like 4 of the letters, so I only had to find the other letter. But since then, it's been varying degrees of a disaster where I just that first word gives me like maybe 1 letter that's yellow, and so now I'm like, okay, well, I won't spend too much time thinking about it. I'm very I'm not particularly tactical with how I play it. Like, I'll go for a word. If it gives me 1 or 2 letters, I'll then just go for another word, and even like it might not have one of the letters, or it may have already grayed out or told me that this letter isn't available. But I'll just go for another word that has at least something in connection with that original word, just to get another go out. I'm not particularly tactical with it, and also realize as well. And I find this when I play Scrabble as well. As soon as I play these types of games, my understanding of like just words and remembering other words that exist, it falls out of my head. And I'm sitting there looking, thinking, okay, I just need a word that has a G in it, and I can't fucking think of a word at all. And it's happening every single time I play this fucking thing.
Yeah, your vocabulary just completely drops out of your head. To me, if I get to a point with the Wordles where I'm like, I've got a couple of letters and I'm like, oh, maybe one of them's green and then I might have 1 or 2 oranges or whatever, I am just looking at the remaining letters, just trying to form words. I'm not trying to think of kind of words free form, like trying to deliver a strike out of nowhere. I'm very much anagramming and planning my way to what I think my next word or letter is going to be. I think there was one the other day that was like, was it crank? Was it crank? I think it was.
Yeah, crank. Yeah.
And there's
that took me all 6 attempts to get that fucking thing.
Yeah, because you've got like prank and like drank, and it's really annoying. I was like, oh, for God's sake! I think I got that on my 5th go, and I think I got RANK, like, or I could figure it out that it was RANK there, and I still had those other letters, and I'm like, oh, I bet I'm gonna get this wrong. And then when I finally got crank, I was just immediately like, I should have gone with Jason Statham straight away.
And you always should do. Yeah. But it is very satisfying when you have, say, the 2nd or 3rd attempt, and you've got maybe like 1 green, and then on the next go you get like 3 or 4 greens, and you're just like, yeah, this, it worked out. But I like, one of the things that I've really liked about it, and it isn't actually the game itself, is the fact that people really seem really passionate about not spoiling it, Yeah. Like, I haven't seen a single person on Twitter spoil it. We have ended up with, there's a Slack channel in work, and, they kind of like offer tips on good starting words to use, and like I've started using adieu as like a first word, because Sean, who was adieu, of course, fucking hell. Sean, who was going to come on, that's like a word he suggested that he was using because it clears out quite a few vowels, and yeah, but everyone's been really like nice about not spoiling it. Shame we can't do that with fucking films or anything else, but this stupid little game that I do appreciate it for what it is. Everyone's really seems to be playing by the rules.
Yeah, I agree. There's like a nice sort of community spirit as well. It's like everybody against the game rather than, everybody trying to... I mean, there are people that are getting competitive about it, but most of the people I see in my Twitter feed playing it, everyone just seems to be enjoying themselves. It's one of those fads. It'll probably last a couple of months, I reckon. But it's just nice. I like seeing it. I haven't really been tweeting my Wordle stuff. I haven't really felt the need, but I've enjoyed seeing other people and how they're kind of getting on with the game. And when you see people get like 2 or 3, you're like, oh god, this person must have just nailed their first guess or whatever. But yeah, I'm not a guy for putting loads of vowels or whatever in, because I just think it makes it increasingly frustrating if you get like 3 of them and they're not in the right place, because then you're like, right, well, then what am I supposed to do with these vowels? How am I supposed to rearrange these vowels? I find that it kind of never puts me where I want it. I just usually use a word that has 2 vowels in it that's just a regular word, whether it's like an O or U word or an A and E word or something like that. Or I'll try and put S. I'll try and guess a word that has S at the end right away, just to see, because I think you get S at the end of a lot of words, and that kind of sets you up if you're like, right, well, that's immediately kind of one thing off the board, like if I've got a word that has S at the end of it. But yeah, it's Wordle, man. I did not think, but if it happened in time, it might have made a late run for being on the old Game of the Year list, I would say.
I'm hoping that we're still playing it come the end of like this year, so we could be a 2022's game of not 2022.
When it's Wordle brought to you by Coca-Cola and Michelin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's been the cool thing as well. Like, the guy who made this has made it very clear. There's like, I don't have any intention to monetize this or turn it into an app or whatever else. Now, in fairness, all that means is someone else is going to do it, because we had that with, what was it, Threes and 2048.
Flappy Bird. Do you remember how many different versions of Flappy Bird there were?
Yeah, but the original version of that alone made that guy enough money, because it was an app. So,
but then he didn't want any money.
No, he
took
didn't.
It down, which I think was
of course,
insane.
Yeah. Oh, you can never fully understand unless you're in someone's shoes. And the one other thing as well, just from the kind of like the social interaction part of this, or the like social just kind of general consensus on it, is we've already got to this point, and there's a line that Bo Burnham has in one of his songs on Inside, where he says, "The backlash to the backlash that's just begun," and it's already like, you can see where you've got people complaining about the people that are tweeting their Wordle scores, and then you've already got the people complaining about those people that are complaining about the Wordle scores, and it's like, if you get so like strung up about people posting their Wordle scores, what are you doing on Twitter? Like, it's
being
just
angry.
It's such an innocuous thing. It really is.
it's full of lots of lovely, not angry people.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many angry. I just ignore all that. I don't really give a shit about.
But the thing about it as well is, like, because of the way that tweet is like, or the way that you can share it is automated, is like, all you have to do is just, and I wonder if the guy who made this, like, put it in there specifically, is like, hey, if you just want to mute this, like, all you have to do is just mute the word Wordle, and unless people specifically remove the word Wordle from the tweet, which most people don't, they just kind of post it up and off you go, like, that's it, it's gone, you never have to see it again. I saw one person that was just whining about it, and I was like, of all the things to complain about on that dumb fucking app, this is the thing that's really, like, got to you today. I don't know, it just seems a bit unnecessary.
I don't know why, when you were going to start that, I assume you thought like Josh Wardle, the creator, was going to get milkshake ducked, and he was actually some sort of like evil, weird mustache twiddling oil baron, like the Texan from The Simpsons.